Welcome to the disassembly guide for the Echo1 P90. This disassembly guide should work for the following P90 models: Tokyo Marine model, King Arms model, KS model, JG P90 model, and the Echo1 P90 model. There's a few things you're going to need before you start this disassembly. You're going to need the following items that will appear on your screen: a standard screwdriver, various size Allen wrenches, and a little container to store your items in. You do not want to lose any of these items, so it is smart to keep a little container like this. Alright, before we get started, you're going to want to take the P90, have the battery in it, turn it to semi, fire a few shots off to decompress the spring. Alright, now that that's done, you can remove your battery out of your battery compartment, mind the wires, take your screwdriver, remove the two screws holding the plate in that holds the gearbox in. Set these parts aside, organized so you know where they're at, and you know which order they're going, so you don't lose anything either. Now slowly and cautiously pull the gearbox out, and make sure you don't tug on any wires or rip any wires for that matter. You may now set the P90 aside and the gearbox is removed. Alright, for this, you're going to want to remove all the screws here and take this top plate off. Move the screws on the electrical housing first. Keep the screws on there and just wait for them to click so you don't have to have screws everywhere, and so you know which one goes where. These screws should be relatively tight too. Remove the motor tabs if you want to. Flip it around. Move the other ones. These shouldn't be too hard to remove, unless you have them soldered on and then they're not coming off. Alright, you may now set your electrical housing off to the side as well. Alright, you can remove your cutoff lever on the outside here. It's a very tiny screw, so do not lose it. I like to put this, the cutoff lever, and the spring in one compartment. Alright, now before you move the cutoff lever, you do not want to remove it right away or try to remove it quickly, because you will lose this spring like I almost did several times, and you will ruin your life. So put your finger over the spring and lift up on the cutoff lever and slowly release the spring tension. Take a screwdriver or a Allen wrench and slowly remove the spring. Put these components in the same compartment as that spring. Remove the other screws that are holding the motor in. You're going to need to remove these, actually, unlike the electrical housing. Put the screws back in the holes and set it off to the side. Alright, now you just have the raw gearbox up, and you need to remove one more screw until you can take the thing apart. Put this in its own compartment as well. Take a screwdriver, put it in this back hole right here, push down, and slowly pull up. Release your spring tension, and the gearbox is opened. Alright, you may now remove the upper components of the gearbox, which includes the spring guide, the piston head, tappet plate, air nozzle, and cylinder head. Watch the spring too. And you may now remove the the various components of the lower part of the gearbox, which includes the bevel gear, sector gear, spur gear, and anti-reversal latch. And any shims you have left over, remove them too. You may want to remove the bushings as well, unless you have them glued in, which is a great idea. Alright, you successfully disassembled your gearbox. Congratulations. Welcome back to the disassembly and reassembly of the Echo1 P90. Right, now that your gearbox is completely disassembled, you may now make any shimming changes, motor height changes, AOE corrections, anything of such. Clean your gearbox, whatever you want to do. Once you're done with that, these are the steps you need to follow to get your gearbox put back together. Alright, so let's start with the spur gear. Let's put it in first. Let's make sure we don't mess up here. You're going to be very careful with this process. It's not like you're really going to break anything, but you don't want to put anything back together wrong. Your gearbox could break that way, it wouldn't function properly, a lot of bad things could happen. So take your time, and try not to get this done in less than 5 minutes. Take your time at it. So next gear we're going to put in is the sector gear. And we're not going to put in the bevel gear just yet, as the anti-reversal latch loves to knock it out of place, and a magnet has never helped me. Alright, so let's put in the upper portion of the gearbox. This includes the piston, piston head, cylinder, cylinder head, tappet plate, and air nozzle. Just slide it in there, put your spring in first for the tappet plate, and the tappet plate has always wanted to push up on my bushing there. Sometimes I can get it to stay just fine, sometimes it doesn't. But your bushings should be glued in anyway. Mine are right now for the sake of this disassembly and reassembly video. Put your spring in right here. Not in all the way, just in a relaxed one. Put your anti-reversal latch in. Make sure it's working and make sure it has clearance over the spur gear. Yep, fix my tappet plate again. Alright, now, let me put the spring back in. My Echo1 P90 spring isn't that strong, so it's a little bit shorter, and so it doesn't want to jump up as much as a less stronger spring would. So now you're going to want to put in the bevel gear and pull your anti-reversal latch back. Alright, now that that's in, take your shell. You're going to be holding a lot of things for this one. You're going to be holding the bevel gear, and you're going to be holding either your piston or cylinder head down, as the spring likes to push up on that. Alright, sometimes you're not going to get it that easy. You're going to have to move around some bushings here and there. Maybe you have to take it back apart and do it a couple times over, because you're not going to be able to get it your first try if this is your first gearbox. Alright, next thing you want to do is put your motor mount and motor back on. Hold those things together. Put the slide back on. Take your whole setup here. Put some screws back in. You now set it down. Flip your gearbox over. Let's put in the cutoff lever. Alright, so this part can be a bit tricky actually, so let's take our time on this one. I'll try to explain it as best as possible. Usually what I do here is I put the spring in halfway, hold it with my thumb right here, take the small spike that's coming off the cutoff lever that holds onto the spring almost as a guide. You want to try to get it in the spring first. So once it's in there, use this little screwdriver, put it back in there, and it's in. Now take your small screw, hopefully you didn't lose it, drop it in there, and screw it on. Alright, it's working. Alright, so now, take the rest of your screws, and just put them back together. Some screws do have to go certain places, so kind of watch out for that. These wider screws hold on to the motor, I've noticed that. And this less wide screw right here goes right here. I'll put this on first. If you have a magnetic screwdriver, it helps a lot to pull these little screws out of out of the pockets in this container. Make sure your screws are tight. Not tight that you're stripping them, but tight enough. Sometimes you can put thread lock. I know I heard a few people use super glue to hold them down, but thread lock is the best option when it comes down to metal on metal. Alright, check everything, make sure nothing's loose at all. If anything's loose, tighten it up a bit. Don't want any loose screws, not at all. Alright, so make sure, now let's connect our motor tabs together. Now make sure you get black to the other, not on the red one. The black doesn't have a black tab on it, signifying that you put black on there, but it's just a silver one, and it's not red, so that goes there. And then the red one, red colored wire, goes onto the red connection. It can be a bit tricky again on the P90 because you kind of gotta pry it in there. Take your time with this though, you don't want to mess up like I said. Alright, check everything, make sure nothing's off. Double check, triple check, quadruple check, just make sure you're right. Alright, now put your battery back on it. Pull this thing, and if it is functioning properly on both full auto and semi-auto, well not semi-auto because the cutoff lever is not working, but if it's working properly, then you're done. Congratulations, you're completely done. Alright, now it is time to get your gearbox back into your gun. Take your gun and your gearbox and just slide it in there. It works to usually have it upright, insert it this way. Right. I'll take the plate holding back the gearbox, slide it in, and screw it on. Alright, congratulations, you are completely done.